Behnam Taleblu. He's a Iran research analyst with the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. He's joining us from Washington here. Good to have you on the program. How close are we or not, do you think, to a deal?
Good to be here. Firstly, it seems like we're inching along in the process of transforming the April 2nd framework agreement into a comprehensive nuclear accord, one that apparently seems to be tilted in Iran's favor. But this most recent extension of 7 days, 1 week until July 7th, will give Iran sanctions relief by the U.S. Treasury and by the European Union Council for that remaining period. But they've kicked the can down the road again, but this time at a much smaller increment.
Well, this is exactly what I was going to say. These talks, as you know well, have been going on for so long. There was an extension, then there was another extension. The fact that it is a very short one, though, of 7 days, is an indication to you that we are quite close.
That appears to be correct. Many Iranian officials, from former President Rafsanjani, for instance, weighed in already at this point and said that a good deal is attainable, a good deal, albeit by Iranian standards. Many in the United States, specifically in the Obama administration, look towards making the April 2nd framework deal the framework for a final accord with Iran. Some European partners, specifically France, have some issues left with that framework, as it appears. But primarily, yes, we are getting a little bit closer towards the deal, and this increment shows it.
But I'm curious as well. We've been hearing mixed signals coming from Iran. Ayatollah Khamenei, who is the top religious leader in Iran, ultimately will have the power to veto this deal if he does not like it, has been saying a lot of things that seem to be, well, maybe not scuttling the deal, but trying to pull back from the deal. A lot of sort of hard red lines being drawn by him. What do you make of that?
Well, that's absolutely right. Ayatollah Khamenei has actually been the best barometer of the trajectory of Iran's nuclear diplomacy with the P5+1 and of the nuclear deal writ large. It seems that the U.S., both late in the Bush administration but throughout the entirety of the Obama administration, has, through a series of smaller, more incremental concessions, moved closer towards some of these red lines that Khamenei has laid out. More specifically, Khamenei has been pretty absolute in some of his red lines about, let's say, enrichment capacity, desire not to dismantle some facilities. And if the deal takes the shape of the April 2nd framework, then it does seem like the P5+1 on some of those will make it more of a time-sensitive delay as opposed to, let's say, taking down facilities. So Khamenei has actually been a pretty good barometer of the nuclear diplomacy, despite his strident red lines.
Yeah, bigger picture, how significant would this deal be if we, in a week from now, if you and I are having a conversation and we're talking about a deal?
I think this deal would actually be quite significant on several fronts. Economically, it would provide the Islamic Republic of Iran with much-needed sanctions relief. Some of that sanctions relief would actually be upfront in the form of what many have called in the United States a signing bonus. That figure is upwards of 50 billion, as some would say. And that has effects both on the technical nuclear process that Iran would have and on the regional factor. As you know, Iran is involved both in Syria and in Iraq combating ISIS, but also exerting tighter control of what's left of the political infrastructure there. Many believe that the money that Iran could gain from a windfall from sanctions relief after a nuclear accord would use to double down in the region, and that would have major effects for both U.S. allies and adversaries in the Middle East. Technically, on a nuclear front as well, Iran would also be legitimizing its nuclear program after 10 to 15 years of restrictions that the current deal, based on the April 2nd framework, would have.
Great to have you on the program, and hopefully we'll get a chance to speak in a week from now and see where we stand.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.